What's going on, everyone? It's Sean with the Social Media Pros, a pressure washing digital marketing agency. And today I want to talk about the 4 things you need to start doing to increase your close rate. As someone who has worked with hundreds of pressure washing companies and been privy to look at the messages and conversations that a lot of pressure washing companies have with customers, I have seen what really works and what does not work, and I've had a lot of conversations about this topic, and I wanted to make a video helping you guys and talking about these things because, most of you guys could be doing, twice or 3 times the amount of revenue that you're doing monthly if you just started doing these things to help with your close rate. If you're new to the channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button as I make videos daily here on YouTube, all in an effort to help you grow your pressure washing business. Now, I thought really long and hard about these 4 tips that you need to start doing in order to maximize your close rate. And I've had a lot of conversations recently with some of our biggest clients that have 80 and 90% close rates to really procure this list. And so I want to give it to you guys. If you guys have questions about any of this stuff or you have an input, please feel free to drop a comment. I respond to every single comment on these videos. But jumping right into this, the first thing that you want to do is you always want to get your leads on the phone. I don't care where they come from, if it comes from Angie's List, if they text you from a yard sign, maybe if you're running Facebook ads optimizing for Messenger and they shoot you a message and they have questions about pressure washing, get them on the phone. You don't want to engage in text message and Messenger or even email, and the main reason for this is because a lot of customers will try to ask pricing questions, and as you guys are already well aware, what a homeowner generally thinks the price should be for pressure washing services and what it actually is sometimes 2 different things. And so when you start talking about pricing over text or Messenger, you might accidentally throw out a price and say, oh yeah, for a house like that we usually charge $500 for a house wash. Well, the next thing you know, they ghost you and they think to themselves, oh, they're crazy, we're never going to pay that. And so the reason you want to get them on the phone, and generally you don't even really want to talk about price on the very first call if you can avoid it, which leads me to the next tip, because again, just getting them on the phone, you can start to build rapport, and then if price does come up and you can't really avoid it, at least you can overcome the objections, which leads me to the second point, which is always, always, always do your estimates in person. Now, I know that this is a really 50-50 split. Most of you guys are not so busy that you can't go over and do an estimate in person. And honestly, my advice for this is you want to try to do same day estimates, but try to do a few of them at a time. That way it saves you time and you're not running around trying to do a job, do an estimate, do a job, do an estimate. And this is probably the most important tip. And here's the reason why, is it kind of ties into my first point, or my first tip rather, about getting your leads on the phone, is because when you go out in person and you do the estimate with the homeowner, you're going to be able to start building a lot of that rapport. And as you're walking around the property and talking about the things that they really want washed, you can slowly start talking about price. And at that point, when price starts to kind of come up, you're going to be able to overcome objections. So let me give you an example. So let's say you're running Facebook ads, optimizing for messages, and somebody interacts with the ad and they say, hey, I've got questions about getting my house washed. Responding with, when is a good time for me to give you a call so we can discuss this? You get them on the phone, and then they briefly tell you about the project, and then you say, hey, when's a good time for me to come out and walk around the house with you and give you a quick estimate? And they'll say, oh, come by the house around 6 tonight. Great, I'll be there. You get there, you start walking around the property, and you start kind of talking about maybe your price per square foot and things like that. And then maybe price comes up and you say, oh, it's going to be somewhere in the ballpark of $300 to $400 for us to wash our house. A lot of times these homeowners are going to say, wow, I already got an estimate that was way less than that, or I know a guy who can do it much cheaper than that. This is why doing your estimates is so important in person, because you can start talking about some of the benefits as to why they need to go with you, right? So soft washing, being insured, all of those good things, which is what the $99 guy is not going to be able to provide to them. And if you would have been talking to them about price over Messenger or text, as soon as you brought even up that number, they're just going to ghost you and never talk to you again. Which kind of leads me into the third tip, which is don't add too many services to the estimate. And so what I mean by this is, let's say you go out to do an estimate for a driveway cleaning, and you get there, you meet the homeowner, and you go over pricing, and everything seems to be okay, and you say something like, hey, when I shoot this estimate over to you, I'm going to go ahead, I noticed that your roof needs done. I'm going to go ahead and include an estimate for the roof wash, even if you don't need it. And the reason that, in my personal opinion, that I would not do this is because what will happen is what they're gonna focus on is the total amount of the estimate. So let's say the driveway cleaning is $200, but the roof wash is $600, and the estimate says $800. When they see that, they're gonna think, man, maybe I don't need to spend all this money, right? They don't just look at the $200 and $800. Now, obviously, some of them will, but a big focal point is gonna be that total price, right? So what I would suggest doing instead is if you go out to do an estimate for a driveway cleaning, give them an estimate for the driveway cleaning. Let's say it's $200, right? And then when they close on that $200 driveway cleaning, go out, do the job, do an amazing job, build the rapport, and then you reach back out to them and give them a call and say, hey, I noticed while we were out doing your driveway that your roof really needs done. Because we've already come out, we'll give you a discount, whatever that looks like, right? And then they're more likely to go and you can add on the services at a later date. So I've just noticed that a lot of people that I've spoke to have had way better success doing it this way. And I understand that it's way more convenient when you can just come out and do it all at once, but I have seen that a lot of people can get scared away when you start throwing too much on there. So my advice would be, when you go out to do the estimate, give them an estimate only for what they were looking for, then build the rapport, and then add on the services. My fourth and final tip to increase your close rate, and it kind of, as you could have already assumed, is you always want to try and close in person. So when you go out in person to do the estimate, don't just tell them, hey, later tonight at 6 or 7 o'clock, what's your email? I'm going to shoot you an estimate over via email, because then you're going to play the game of like following up with them every other day. Hey, did you get that estimate? Did you have questions? Just close them in person, right? Even if you have to go out to your truck for a couple of minutes to put it all into your CRM, go out, put out the estimate, and then go back up to the door and say, hey, I wanted to go over this estimate with you, and then you can go over the estimate. Because if they're going to have price objections, you're going to want to flush those out right there while you're with them, and you can overcome those objections, right? Because if, let's say, the roof wash is $600 and you shoot them an estimate over later that evening via email and it's $600, and they go, yeah, no way, I'm not going to spend that amount of money, or man, maybe I'm just going to hold off because that's a lot of money to spend. At least if you deliver that estimate in person and you can have a conversation and build value in why the price is what the price is, you're more likely to close it. And then you can start getting into other sales tactics where you can say things like, hey, it's $600, we can be out here as soon as Saturday, does that work for you? And maybe we'll make a whole other video about closing sale tactics, but really the overview of all of this is to increase your close rate. Because if you're spending money in advertising, whether it's Google Ads, yard signs, EDDM, whatever the case may be, you want to maximize that close rate. And by doing these 4 things, which is getting your leads on the phone, doing your estimates in person, only providing an estimate for the service requested, and then closing in person, I promise you, if you do these 4 things, your close rate will go through the roof. And if your current close rate's like 30-40%, and you double that, instead of making $6, $7, $8 grand a month, you're going to make $12, $14, $16,000 a month. So that's just my 2 cents on how to increase your close rate. If you have tips, or maybe one of these you don't necessarily agree with, drop a comment below this video. Like I said, I always respond to every comment in every single YouTube video. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I really hope that this provided some value for you.